Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about Julia Fox. A lot of my introduction to Julia Fox was very much against my will. I was not interested, there was just nothing there for me. That's not a commentary on her. Truly just not interested. As time went on, I started to find out more and more things to the point where I was like, okay, I'm finding out too many things without context. I need to understand what's going on. I'm going to tell you some things about Julia Fox that I think are interesting, important, telling, meaningful about who she is as a person, her character, her attitude, so on and so forth. Because realistically, in my experience, what I've seen on the media has been very surface level. Now granted, there are articles out there. Do I think people are looking up articles being like, what was her childhood like? What was her family life like? I don't think that's the majority. Some people might have, but I do think a lot of knowledge will come via her relationship with Kanye or via some weird fashion choice she made at some event. I don't think people are really looking a lot farther into it, which I can't blame them because I wasn't going to either. So I'm going to give you some information here that I think is meaningful. It's in no particular order. None of this information is supposed to sway you in one direction or the other as much as just give more context to her as a person as opposed to her as an aesthetic being that is only aesthetic and only commented on about surface level things. So Fox worked as a clothing designer. She was/is a model. She was in Playboy in 2015. She was also exhibiting paintings and photography. She self-published 2 books of photography, and she also writes poetry. She was in campaigns for significant brands such as Diesel, Supreme. Aside from that, she also did some acting and directing. She's mainly right now known for being in Uncut Gems. She also directed Fantasy Girls, which is a short film. In terms of her personal life, Fox was married in 2018. She separated from them. She also has a son who was born in 2021. In January of 2022, she confirmed that she was dating Kanye West, and they allegedly broke up, but it's not very clear when it was because there were interviews asking her if they did. She said no, but then maybe they did because then it's a mess. It doesn't really matter. So if I refer to Kanye here, it's only because he was in a relationship with her. I really don't want to focus on him as much as Julia Fox, since that is the point of this video. February 14th, Julia Fox has denied rumors that she and Kanye West have broken up and proclaimed that she has, apparently, not cried since 1997. Let's talk about not crying since 1997. I don't even know if I've gone 97 minutes without crying. Now, hopefully this was meant to be like a comedic, sarcastic remark. I already thought this was interesting, and then, I mean, if you just read something like this, she's immediately a character, right? Someone just saying, oh, I haven't cried since 97 as a response to whether she was broken up with Kanye. So this is exactly what she said. At Daily Mail, y'all are straight trash. I haven't cried since 1997. I especially wouldn't cry over this, Fox reportedly wrote. If anything, I've been laughing more than before, and if I look like shit, it's because I got out at Terminal 1 and ran on foot to Terminal 7 because I was fucking late for a plane to go see the only men that matter, which is my son and my dad. I think this got a lot of people talking because it's not your clean PR response of, we went our separate ways, I'll always care for them. There's shit that celebrities say when they break up that is meant to be pleasing to everyone but not really giving anyone any information. This wasn't like that at all. This was kind of like, fuck that person, I don't care. This is what I care about, end of. So in terms of finding out more about Julia Fox, I found an article that was discussing interesting facts about her. This one is one of the ones that I thought was most worrisome just because of the implications, and you'll see what I mean. Fact number 2 was that she became disillusioned with the New York City club scene early. Because Julia's father was pretty lenient with rules, she started going to clubs at the age of 14, and she became a part owner and investor of a nightclub at one point. However, by 18, she found herself feeling pretty burnt out by the club scene, especially after suffering a near fatal overdose at 17. Growing up in New York, you start going out really young, she explained to Paper. I was 14 years old in clubs, you know. By the time I was 18, I was tired. It just got boring and repetitive. I already knew what the night might be like. It just wasn't fulfilling to me anymore. It was this really cheap thrill that I had become immune to. The near fatal overdose at 17 in and of itself, Jesus Christ. Being 14 years old in clubs immediately for me, and it might be the kind of content I make or the type of shit I read online, but immediately made me think of creepy people in the sense of, okay, going to a club and drinking and doing drugs when you're 14, we already know is not the way to go. The big deal is I'm afraid of what people would do to you or try to do to you or what they try to convince you to do, especially adults who want someone younger to manipulate, to abuse, shit like that. That's what I was thinking about immediately, because I was like, you see this vulnerable person at a club that you might very easily be able to convince, because again, at 14, you don't necessarily know when people are being manipulative, and I mean, at any age for that matter, but who knows what happened there, but I do think that in and of itself is extremely concerning too. This kind of connects to the point I just mentioned, that she worked as a dominatrix in high school. While she never had a film or stage acting experience, Julia did play several different roles when she worked as a dominatrix in high school. Rather than a professional actress, she considered herself as an actress of life. When asked about her performance experience by paper, Julia said, "I've kind of always put on a show or pretended to be normal or pretended to be okay when I wasn't. My first experience in acting was probably in high school. My after-school job was a dominatrix, so it was fantasy role play. For her, role-playing helped her learn how to improve and work under pressure. I was thrown into that as a teenager," she added, "so I'm good under pressure and I can read someone and know what it is they want. I pick up subtle cues very well and pay attention to detail." Now, I know that the term working is referring to the fact that you were doing something and you're getting money for doing the thing. However, here, I think I was disturbed by the term work just because of her age and the type of work that was, and the fact that, again, we have predators really easily taking advantage of you doing that type of work and not knowing, when someone is crossing the line. And aside from that, maybe not even having anyone in your corner. Like, we don't know if this was kept as a secret. If you don't have anyone there looking over you, if you don't have anyone there you can refer to and tell them that you're having problems with this job, whatever it is, I feel like you're doubly likely to be taken advantage of, because not only do they see someone young and potentially more naive than someone who's 10 years older, but also the fact of like, hey, this person's alone, so if I wanted to do something really fucked up, I could probably get away with it. So in relation to her having been a sex worker, and I use the term sex worker specifically because that's what the article says, but again, I don't even know if the term sex worker would be correct if someone is below the age of consent, because putting aside all labor laws and stuff like that, in terms of consent and work, it just becomes extremely complicated. I don't know what the right terminology would even be there. So you guys can let me know if there's a term to use, because truly, I feel uncomfortable with most of these. Julia Fox is speaking out about Hollywood's perception towards sex workers. The actress who entered the sex industry as a dominatrix while in high school opened up to poet and sex worker Rachel Rabbit White for Office magazine. Rabbit White began the conversation by lauding Fox for her feature film debut in Uncut Gems, and the New York City sex work community that created a buzz, the writer said, "Like she's one of us and she's really doing it." "It's always been in the back of my mind," Fox replied, "just that I've been given these opportunities when that just doesn't happen for a lot of sex workers. It's that people don't take you seriously if you're creative and also a sex worker. I wish I could go back in time and tell myself 10 years ago that things are going to turn around for you and you'll be seen finally. At the time, I didn't have high hopes, but I was optimistic. I knew I didn't want to be in the sex industry forever, but I didn't really know how I would get out. I didn't have a plan. I'm really grateful for how everything happened organically." So I do think that this is an example of where we see Julia Fox beyond what we see in the media, this very flattened version, because what is being said here is not dumb. And the reason why I'm saying that it's not dumb is because I do think a lot of the way the media has portrayed it, or at least the way I interpreted their portrayal, was as someone very airheaded, someone who just says shit and doesn't really think of A, the consequences, and B, what they're actually saying, what the meaning is, what the implications are, so on and so forth. This wasn't meant to be a super extensive summary of who Julia Fox is or who anyone is. I don't really think can be boiled down to a very short amount of time, but I do think it's important to think about these things because they're not really being publicized, and that's fine. That's obviously up to her to decide what she wants and doesn't want to talk about, but I do think it's worth taking into account as opposed to just flattening someone to, oh, this person dated so-and-so for a while, because there is a lot there. This person effectively is an artist, much like Kanye West, who she was with. Also, let me know what you think of when you hear about Julia Fox. I asked you guys on Twitter about it, and there were a lot of different reactions. I'll post some of them just so you can pause and look at them. I do think it's interesting just to see how it is that she's interpreted just based on what the media is kind of telling us to think about it. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. And thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.